Okay, so let's have a quick look at the mixer and start to configure that. Okay, so because we're using track stacks, a lot of the tracks are hidden behind these stacked folders. So if I was to click this arrow, it will open up all of the background vocals, and the same with these. So this is sort of a more condensed, compact way of presenting the tracks and folders. And if you can see at the top here, well, let's start with the lead vocal. That's an audio track. This is an auxiliary track or a bus. So is this. The bass, I know, is just an audio track, and the keys and guitars have been grouped together. So these are all track stacks. So if I was to open that up, we'll have all our keys. Now, when mixing, you might decide that you want to have everything on display. So you just hit those and open everything up so you can quickly get to stuff. Or maybe you're just working on the drums, for example. So you can close these ones and just focus on the drum section without having to use scroll bars to move around. Okay, another thing that you might want to do is configure the actual track headers. So if you were to come down to the bottom here and you were to hold down the control key or right click, you can come to configure channel strip components and you get this window. Now this is quite handy because what you can do is switch things on and off. You can decide right here whether you actually want to display certain things. So for example, if you don't want to display groups, then you can click that and the groups disappears. If, let's say, for example, you wanted to remove the control surface bars, which I don't think there are any on this one because I'm not using a control surface at the moment. It's again trying to remove the unnecessary bits that you're not likely to use on this particular project. Another quite useful thing is to sort out the track name in terms of the lines. So let's say, for example, right down here you can see we've got lead, but we don't see the entire name. If you were to choose 2 lines, Logic will display the full name, or maybe even 3 lines if you had a really long detailed name. Okay, let's leave it on 2. And this is quite a useful tool, in fact, when it comes to configuring and making sure that your mixer is displaying the essential things that you're going to need. So for example, maybe you came to your mixer and the send controls were missing. Well, this is where you switch them on. Okay, quite a handy function to work with. Another useful set of features on the mixer window are the display settings up here, where you've got the option of displaying single tracks, tracks and groups, or all tracks together. Now, let's say, for example, we wanted to display a single track. Click on single. If I was to go back to screen set 1 and I was to click on the vocal over here, I go back to the mixer and now all I'm displaying is the vocal track if I'm just working on the vocal track, and the master and the main stereo out. Okay, if I was to, let's say for example, I just wanted to display the bass instrument or bass track, click on bass here, go back to the mixer, screen set 3, and the bass is displayed. Let's say for example, however, I wanted to just work on the drums. Let's go back to screen set 1. I'm going to click on the drum group and back to the mixer, and all of the drums are now being displayed. This is really convenient because I can just focus on the drum parts without the clutter of all of the other tracks getting in the way. I can also click on this up here to widen the actual track lanes, or if I had quite a few lanes, I could click on this one to narrow them. So I'm going to stick to that one. If, however, I wanted to just go for tracks, then what I'm looking at are all of the tracks that are being displayed on the main window. So on the main window, we've got, let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks. And if I was to go to tracks here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and of course the N2, which is your main out and your master out. Okay. However, if I wanted to go to all, now everything is being displayed. Of course, that means that you're going to have to do a bit of scrolling up and down, but everything that's actually in the project is now available to you on the mixer. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the mixer channel strips and see what features we have available to us when it comes to mixing. Now the first thing I want to look at is the channel strip setting. If we were to click here on this bass track, it's electric bass, and I was to go to Legacy, Logic and Bass, there are some options here that might be quite useful to you to get you started in terms of shaping the tone and the color of your instrument, and in this case being a bass. So I'm going to choose the first one, American Stack, and instantly up comes a range of processor plugins that have been tailored for the bass. So let's have a look at the bass amp. Here we go. So this is again a Logic bass amp. We can go in here, we can choose some different options from within the actual amp. What we got here now, we got the channel EQ. You can go into the presets here and you can even pull up some presets. Let's go to guitar, and you've got jazz bass and you've got electric jazz bass and so on. Now these are all great starting points for you. I mean, you might choose not to use them at all, but again, to get you off the ground and up and running, that's it. Okay, and then we've got a compressor, and again the compressor has been set up for this particular bass patch. However, we can go in here and we can choose one of the presets. Again, we've got bass, guitars and so on and so forth. Okay, now let's say for example we've chosen a few settings and we're quite happy with these plugins. Maybe let's switch the noise gate on and choose another compressor setting. Let's go for one of these. Let's say it was bass light. Okay, great. All right, now I'm happy with that, and I want to be able to access these settings again in the future. All I need to do is come up here, come back to setting, and I'm going to go save channel strip setting as. All I need to do is give it a new name and save. Okay, now let's reset this channel strip, reset channel strip. Okay, and if I was to go back in here now and I was to go down here, right there is my preset. Again, you'll be able to find more on saving and editing custom channel strip settings by checking out the dedicated video in the playlist.